Ladies and gentlemen, order in the court. That's a really pathetic gavel. Today's proceedings, find some people versus James McGill.
Legal troubles got you down? Bosses refusing to pay out. Hit and run leave you stunned. Drug lords in your future? Maybe not. Because he'll get your case dismissed. He'll get you the defense you deserve. But only if you say the words.
Oh no, I need legal representation. Whatever shall I do? What do I say? Oh wait, I know.
Better Call Saul.
Saul. So without further ado, it's time to start judging Saul. Court is now in session.
You will atone.
Dragon, I blame the gavel because I know there are like 3 things I did wrong there.
Yes, and 3 things I knew you were going to do. Just think. Okay.
I blame the gavel, man. The gavel thing threw me off. The gavel.
Oh, sure, it was the gavel's fault. Right. You if I didn't know that gavel thing you're telling me was true, I would suspect that you intentionally.
You know the gavel thing I'm telling you is true, though. I literally told you what I'm doing with the gavel, and it was not a good solution.
I'm just saying, if I had not known this whole gavel thing, I would suspect that you intentionally butchered those 3 bits.
All right.
Anyway, we're back,
folks.
What
wasn't intentionally butchered, Dragon?
What?
The Better Call Saul Season 4 premiere!
Yeah!
No, it wasn't just not intentionally butchered, folks. It was amazing.
I'd agree with that.
Worth the wait. Worth the wait, Dragon. Of course, we're coming off of a long wait from Better Call Saul. Very arduous wait. Over a year since the Better Call Saul season finale last year.
No, it's been 14 months. It's been roughly, so it's about a year.
Oh, that's what, yeah. So yeah, it's literally been over a year. So, okay, Dragon. Any backstory you want to get to this? Of course, we need to shout out the writer and the director. Anything else you want to get to before we jump into the actual episode?
Real quick, just something kind of neat I thought you might like to know. There's a little video circulating of the Better Call Saul crew of Patrick Fabian, Bob Odenkirk, Giancarlo Esposito, Michael Mandow, and Ray Seahorn. They were all basically recapped the previous 3 seasons in 10 minutes, and it was amazing.
Did they do it in a comedic fashion or just really fast?
It was comedic and fast. It was kind of a little bit of both there, and Giancarlo Esposito was quite hilarious. So, of course, folks, just let's kind of do what we usually do here with hit our director and highlight our director and our writer here. So, I want to apologize. This kind of ties into some backstory too, just with the director. When we did the speculation cast on Better Call Saul, I got something wrong and I felt bad for it. The director of this episode, I knew I'd seen the name, and that's true. I mean, the director of this episode, I had seen the name in other aspects of production, but I completely forgot that. She directed one of the best episodes of Better Call Saul.
Oh, God.
So, again, I combed over, but I guess I was in a hurry or something. I just blinked or something while I was scrolling through the names and everything. I missed her because, I knew this name more. I knew her from something else. I knew she had kind of broken through the barrier or something, had done something. But anyways, Minky Spiro. Minky Spiro directed this, and in the past, she directed Fall.
Oh, yeah, that is one of the good ones.
And has a huge bearing over this episode and this season, so Paul is very important. So my apologies to Minky Spiro.
Oh, man.
Also, by the way, fun fact, Minky Spiro, she was one of the various female directors on Jessica Jones Season 2. She directed the 2nd episode of Jessica Jones, of Season 2. So a little fun fact.
Nice.
Okay, also our writer is, of course, Peter Gould, co-creator of Better Call Saul, and of course the Saul Goodman character. And just to kind of highlight some things that he's written. Of course, he wrote Nailed, and he had directed Lantern, which ended last season. So again, just kind of getting a good bearing on kind of some relative thematic things we have that show in this episode.
Okay,
let's get into Smoke.
So, Dragon, of course, as always, we start with the patented Gene scene.
Gene's on the scene. Yes. So yes, we have a Gene teaser as we usually do. Basically, kind of the first kind of 10. This is the longest. I believe this is the longest Gene scene that we have gotten. It's like the full 10 minutes that usually they're allotted on like
Dragon,
the
for
longest.
a half a second there, I was like, no way, are we getting a full Gene episode?
I knew we weren't getting a full episode, but I was amazed. Like, oh my god, it just keeps going. This is amazing.
Right? And not only does it just keep going, but none of it was like the mundane stuff that we're used to with the Gene stuff. You know,
Yeah.
mundane in a good way, but all of it was like high stakes.
Basically, it was the equivalent of one of the things I keep highlighting when we go back to season three is it's kind of the mundanity that Better Call Saul is amped up with, like Nacho switching the pills from last season. It's kind of that level of it's anxiety, but it's something so like the stakes couldn't be higher, but it's so it's so small. It's like can he land the pill shot in the pocket? Can he do it? In this case, Gene. Well, we'll get to that when we get to it. So we start off with this is a fun fact, and I don't know if this is going to have any bearing thematically or not, because you got to remember the wonderful thing about Better Call Saul is there are so many happy accidents with the Albuquerque verse, where some of the most iconic moments in both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul are sometimes accidental and not intended, like the pizza shot from Breaking Bad. Like again, some of these moments here. So you never know like how intentional some of these moves are. Like we start with the we hear the ink spots, and the ink spots was the music that played during the first Gene scene that opened Better Call Saul. So I don't know if they're trying to close a loop with that intentionally or not. I don't know because think the song they chose, Tiki. The Ink Spots is a really good band, by the way. I'm not really a huge music guy, but I do like the Ink Spots, and it's kind of a house band for many of old fashioned things. And the song was "We Three." I believe that it was like "We Three," the longer title, which again I might have some thematical bearings here. Is my echo, my shadow, and me. And if you look at the Jimmy McGill characters, look at Saul, Jimmy, and Gene, three different sides of himself. There is a question of who's who. You can look at it as Gene is either the me or he's the echo, as in you hear what people are calling you, as we see happens to Gene, like when it kind of comes to momentarily. It's like, is he the me? Is Jimmy the echo of his past? Sorry, like I presume Jimmy's the me, Gene's the echo, and Saul's the shadow of his past. That's me reading way too much into the Ink Spot song.
If I were to guess, I would say it would be I would almost guess that Jimmy's the shadow. Gene's the echo because Gene's kind of like an echo of Saul of Jimmy in a way.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
And then Saul is the real me.
Interesting, very interesting. We'll see if any of that pans out. We're just crazy for looking into words.
I think we are, Dragon. I think we are.
Okay, so
also, this song really reminded me of the old timey song that plays in the Just Giggle at Twilight Zone sketch.
well, no, they used the same group. Tiggy. They used I don't think it was this song, but they used the song that was in the. I don't want to. They used "I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire," which I used in that Batman pitch that we did in the Ben Affleck Batman pitch.
Yeah, I knew the band sounded familiar.
That's the thing. All the ink spots. Here's the hilarious thing about the ink spots. Tig. All their songs open with the exact same note practically. They all sound identical in the beginning before you hear the lyrics.
Uh-huh.
That's the thing. They're very easy to confuse. So you were probably thinking of Better Call Saul, and it was.
I probably was. You're right. Anyways.
Okay, so we have this. I love the visual clues here. Tiki, let me say this about Premiere. Like the one thing overall with this whole thing I want to say, never, and bear in mind, this happens like every time we kind of start a season of Better Call Saul. But yet again, it just feels like a fresh experience here. I've never been more glued to an episode of television than I have been for the opening
I mean, honestly, I think part of that is just because it's been such a long wait, and it feels so good to be back in this world with those characters again.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. This was a I have my nitpicks here and there with the episode, Dragon. I'm maybe not quite as in love with it as you are, but I think all the Jimmy and Kim stuff and all the basically all the Jimmy, Kim, and Howard stuff is really, really on point. All the stuff dealing with the Chuck aftermath is. My problems kind of come with the Mike stuff, but we'll get there. I mean, don't get me wrong. We love Mike, but
we'll save that for later. We'll get to our Mike love momentarily.
Sure.
Anyway, so I love the visual clues. I mean, I'm always the thing. Like, I was so glued to the screen. I was like paying attention to all the visual clues we were getting. I love how we saw like the missing name tag. Basically, we mirrored the shots that were in the teaser from season 3 and maybe even season 2. The whole like the name tags, the mirror. Like we saw like the Jimmy's Gene's book and everything that he was reading. The whole shebang. And what we're doing is we're re-exploring old territory and seeing, okay, Gene is gone again. Maybe like a hint at where the season might end, or like where next season's going to pick up. Who knows? And then of course we absolutely link up where we left off with Gene. That's amazing. We haven't really linked up like that with the Gene scene so far. We see Gene where we last left him, and Tiki where we last leave him.
On the floor of the Cinnabon after a fateful spill.
Yes, and of course all of us are wondering, like, oh my God, is Gene sick? Is he is he dying? Is he guilt ridden? Like, what's going on here? And
Get a lawyer.
So post the fall, he's taken to the hospital. They have this great thing of like Gene. Of course, looking at the name tag, the paramedics trying to calm him down, getting like kind of a beeline on him. He's saying, "Hey, Gene, you with us, buddy?"
We get a last name on Gene Dragon.
We do. Tukovic.
Tukovic.
Gene Tukovic. So we have. I love the little minutia, Teak, and this is what the Albuquerque verse does better than anyone, especially Better Call Saul. Here we have the little minutia of the X-rays and the observation process. Like he has like the little gel put on him and everything. Has like we see the X-ray process and him like in the bed. And of course, while we have the mundane, the minutia, we also have the very tense paranoia of like he's.
As soon as a cop walks by, he just tenses up. He curls up in bed.
Now, here's the thing that's even better, Tiki. I love the heart monitor. The heart rate keeps getting faster when he spots the cop.
Right,
outside.
Right.
So it's like a great kind of underscore for the scene. So then the doctor comes in and basically, and this is in here purely to kind of spell it out to the fans here, where he says, "Well, Gene, your basically your blood pressure's a little high, but under circumstances you're nervous. It's perfectly, but physically you're fine." That's basically no, folks.
Headline here is false alarm.
Exactly. It was a nice doctor, by the way. It's like headline here, false alarm. So
Dragon, the next scene we get here is, oh my God, we talk about this show making like epic suspense out of the mundane, and this might be the blue meth example of that.
Well, we have two scenes that epitomize that.
Right, back to back.
I know. Okay, so let's see. So Gene is getting ready to leave, and I get a sense that Gene. I'm just reading his. My assumption is that Gene has not had to go to a hospital in his time since the relocation. This is the first time this has happened. And I would imagine Gene wants to get out of there as soon as possible because again, he doesn't want to risk anything. And again, he's not in the same boat as Walter Roy. Walter Roy can't leave the compound. Where Gene can walk around places, but there's always a question of how much scrutiny can he take. So Gene's about to leave, and then this receptionist calls Gene over to get some information. Basically, she spots him before he's out the door. He just comes over. I ordered a taxi. I'm waiting for a taxi. So she calls him over. No, go on.
So basically, she asked for his driver's license. The number's not going through, so she asked for his social security. And like I said, Dragon, we're right there in Gene's shoes with him, and we're just like, oh my God, this is it. This is the moment we've been waiting for. Okay. The hammer's about to drop. Thor's about to enter the building.
Okay, fun fact, by the way, of course, big Breaking Bad Easter egg with the license that we saw taken. With one of the last scenes with Saul we had in Breaking Bad, he was getting the fake ID taken.
I would have never noticed that, but nice for spotting it.
Yeah. Basically, I think here's the thing I want to know. I don't know if it's ever going to be answered because he has a mustache on the driver's license, and when he took a picture I saw, he did not have a driver's license. I imagine that Ed, the vacuum cleaner, disappearing guy, Robert Forster's character. I imagine he had to tell him, okay, when you get there, you got to grow a mustache as soon as possible. That's the thing is, I imagine that's a fake mustache on Gene. I don't know if it was that or okay, when you get there, go to this guy and you take a new picture and it'll be. I don't know. I don't know what the deal was there. Anyway, I guess he got maybe he got it renewed. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. Okay, anyways, the point is. So yes, so basically he's putting his information in Social Security and everything. She's having trouble because he keeps getting kicked back, and against this hugely intense sequence, and it kind of makes you wonder. I was on the edge of my seat this scene too. I was thinking, oh man, did Ed do a good enough job? I mean, how much scrutiny is he expecting these guys to go through here? And then we have the big kind of sigh of relief moment where it's like, oh, I see. And again, I love how pleasant this woman is.
Yeah, she's being so pleasant the whole way through, which honestly makes it even worse in a weird way.
I know, because it's like, just imagine how much stress can Gene take? There's only so much stress a guy can take. And he said, basically, oh, I see what I did here. I confused the O's with the zeros. Oh, so she fixes that, and it goes through. And of course, like, oh, I know, because he tries to make pleasant conversation. Oh, you got a taxi waiting, and don't forget, he walks out the door, is perfectly framed shot. Says, hey, don't forget your driver's license.
So, Dragon, after that, I think Gene is just going to have a stress-free night. He's going to go back to the mall. He's going to check on it, make sure everything's okay. He's going to crack open a couple brewskis, maybe watch some Better Call Saul commercials. All's going to be good in the world of Gene, right?
You would think. But then
that is like, you would think that would be the most stressful part of his evening.
Then something monumental happens, folks, and I have a lot of theories about this. I'm going to save it till the end. All right,
all right.
Okay, a lot of theories come from this scene for me. Big theory. Okay, so our taxi, basically the taxi is waiting out front. He goes there and he tells you, okay, Cottonwood Mall. So we got a name on the mall that Jimmy's at, by the way. Basically, the idea is going back for, I presume, his car and at least his stuff, his lunchbox and everything. At the very least, his car, and he'll get the stuff in the morning. I don't know. So, anyway, so he's in there, and we amp up the mundane tension more, like we break the knob off at 11. It's like we just threw the knob out the window like it was a fastball or something. And so he's in the cabin. I love this reveal because initially, here's my experience watching this. Tiki. First, I saw the little air freshener. Jimmy's in there. He's just kind of catching his breath, like, oh boy, that was an ordeal. Without dialogue here, and basically he sees the air freshener says ABQ isotopes. Now, by the way, I looked into this, and again for speculation later on too. The Isotopes are a baseball team.
Well, yeah, we see Mike watching them later
in the
episode.
I know. Again, yeah. So anyway, so the Albuquerque, so he sees ABQ. I'm thinking, okay, he's thinking about Albuquerque. It's kind of thematic and they'll be teasing up things, but then something happens.
Yes, the driver does not go on a green light, and my God, that is like the worst thing you ever want to have happen when you're in a taxi, Dragon.
So this actor's name is Don Harvey, and I looked it up. He doesn't have a name yet, so I don't know if this guy. Let's just say I don't know if this guy's gonna be reoccurring or not. But let's just keep an eye out for. I'll be keeping an eye out for this.
I definitely have a theory on this guy. I'd be surprised if it was the same theory you have, but we'll keep it under wraps for the time being.
Well, at least by the end, we'll maybe get into that. Okay, so. Let's see. So again, things are starting to look tense here because basically now the car comes to a stop. He's waiting for a stop, but then it turns green. The guy's still staring at him, and like the direct eye contact here. And by the way, on the rewatch, I caught this. You'll notice that Gene he covers up his ID, he covers up his name tag because he's afraid that it's all these little micro touches here. So then he gets out. I'm gonna get out here, and he gets out there and he walks. He walks away, and of course the cab is not moving.
Yeah, that was probably the scariest bit of the whole episode.
Like I was on the edge of my seat, and again, Tegan, my eyes are glued to the screen. I'm like, is the cab gonna turn? Is it gonna turn? Is it gonna turn? And again, we don't see it turn. He's walking
off the plane.
So he's checking. He checks the cab over his shoulder, and he's walking away. And again, like we're focused on him in the shot, and you're not seeing the cab. And again, like what's gonna happen? It's very intense. And
that's for probably at least another I don't know, year and a half.
Unless they really wow us this season, they like more Gene.
That'd be really game-changing, Dragon. It really would be.
Again, they have to do. They've done it so well, folks. At this point, they can do so little to change things up, and it would just be monumental to us. Like, hey, another Gene scene, something like that.
I mean, maybe in season 2 or season 3, we could get away with 2 Gene scenes, but at this point, it'd just be earth-shattering.
Yes. Okay. So we're back. So we have this really striking artistic choice. I still, I've watched the majority of the Insider podcast, and I'm looking for like kind of answers to my lingering questions about the episode. I gotta finish it. I still don't think they've quite got me one on this one. We have this striking artistic choice at the top of this episode, outside the prologue teaser of these embers. At least I thought they were embers. What do you think? Like kind of these embers kind of floating.
This might blow your mind. I kind of took it as symbolism, of course, where I thought it was the dream that Jimmy was having, and the dream was involving burning Mesa Verde documents. What do you think of dem apples?
Well, Tiki, I gotta tell you, I'm not here. I had this funny thing with the Mesa Verde things, Tiki, because I kept thinking, I think Kim just reused the Mesa Verde boxes because I think they got all their I don't know if they got all their filing back.
No. I'm saying it was a dream, though. I'm saying this was what was going on in Jimmy's subconscious as the actual fire is happening, and so we kind of get like a blending of two. We kind of get, as dreams often do, we kind of get a blending of what's going on in the dream and what's going on in reality. So in the dream, Jimmy's dreaming somehow, or maybe at least subconsciously thinking about Mesa Verde because of what Kim's been going through. And then in reality, we get the fire with Chuck, and so the two kind of visually blend together to form a nice bit of patented Matthew Buck symbolism.
I'm not opposed to that. Just I don't know. It didn't strike me that way, but now you bring it up. It's an interesting thought I hadn't considered. So maybe I don't know.
Okay.
So, but yes, we have again. It's kind of hard to make two and two out of because we don't get literal smoke. Again, this is the closest thing to literal smoke we get in the episode, really. So we have this.
What's funny is that the one thing that.
Hello? Hello? Little trouble hearing you there, but I believe what Tiki was getting into there was the fact that we call it one of the things that we were so convinced of was that the episode was going to like begin with the Chuck's house on fire, and we were going to end with Jimmy smoking is kind of like a big I'm going to strike, I'm going bad, like something along those lines. Or Jimmy kind of easing the tension, doing something regarding the smoking, and we were wrong on that theory to say the least. We're kind of jumping ahead a little bit there, but just trust me, that's at least what I think we're going for there. Okay, let me just kind of keep going on through here. Okay, so we have these embers. These embers are basically these embers that are leading us through Jim and Kimmy's room, leading to the bedroom. Dreamer, not entirely sure. We see all these Mesa Verde boxes, kind of an interesting visual. And I guess Kim still has the Mesa Verde account, just the Gatwood oil stuff she doesn't have anymore. So I guess that's what I was kind of thinking of there. So anyway, the point is a lot of Mesa Verde boxes. So let's see. Oh yeah, because they moved them from the office. Regardless if she has them or not, she just she'll still have them. So let's see. I read something in this scene. I kind of read is I think whether it's like Jimmy waking up from a dream regarding these ashes or not. I kind of read the scene as if you put the subtitles on, you see like vehicles are passing by and things, and I think you can lightly hear it. And I think whether it's my read on it was that these passing vehicles might be fire engines for all we know. Again, we probably would have heard sirens, but the point is like passing vehicles in the embers. I don't know how it would work, but a part of me thought that it was like the people attending to the fire, because I don't know how far it lives from Chuck, but people driving to attend to the fire would kind of woke Jimmy up for this scene. So I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. That was kind of my read on it. It's like a maybe. If you want to connect events a little bit there, maybe explain the embers. That's kind of my logic behind it. Anyway, so Jimmy wakes up. Seemingly, he's content with life right now. Again, he's sad. He's kind of a little bummed out that he lost they lost the Wexler McGill building, the dentist office that he and Kim were building for each other. And that's the thing, folks. Like, we're connecting right where season 3 left off, essentially, with a lot of this, and that's great. So. Let's see. So he's content with life. He gets up. He's feeding the fish that he brought for the vet and everything. Just hilarious. So he's feeding the fish, and I love how he cares about this fish too. By the way, he's making coffee. He's checking the want ads. Now when he's checking the want ads here, folks, something really, really a lot of really great Easter eggs and potential plot points for down the line this season do get put into play. At least I would hope. Jimmy's circling a bunch of potential jobs in the want ads. Of course, next episode, most likely, Jimmy's going to be starting the job hunt that we have been promised this season. So, let's see, circling a bunch of names, and of course, we've kind of gone over a few of these. We got a few that we didn't see before. He's circling jobs in like a cell phone store, Neff copiers, which of course, Jimmy's history in the copy room. Let's see, we have Winslow's computing services, so a job in computers. Of course, there's this other one they circled that we did not see before. ABQ Kids Store Playhouse. Something in like a toy store of some kind, like a toy store, like a toy section. I'm not entirely sure, like a Playhouse section. Anyway, let's see. Oh yes. Before I get any further here, another really big catch. I don't know if you folks know this or not. We had two really big catches here, references. They weren't circled, but they were pretty big if you caught them. Beneke Fabricators, as in Ted Beneke, Ted Beneke's company. That was in that paper that Jimmy was looking at. And the bigger one, Hinkle Laser Base. Hinkle Laser Base, folks. My God, Hinkle Laser Base. Very big, because something that we've been teasing, and Tiki and I have been very eager to see this season. We've been very eager to see the laser tag ring, the laser tag place, which Tiki thinks Daniel Wormel thinks Price might be in charge of. You need a Danny, and of course Daniel, that whole thing. But yes, the Hinkle laser base, that could be really big, and maybe a set piece that gets paid off this season. Who knows? All right, let's see. So on the whole, Jimmy's kind of planning his next move. Again, I think he's planning his next move. We'll see where that goes. Anyway, so as he's doing this, Hamlin calls. Hamlin calls, and Jimmy's he's ignoring, just to summarize things a little bit here. He's ignoring Hamlin's call. By the way, they use fake phone numbers on Better Call Saul all the time, and sometimes you can call them and they'll be like a setup fake number, and it's awesome and it's hilarious. But unfortunately, so far at least, Howard Hamlin's call is still like a dead number. So I mean, I believe me, I saw that, folks. I was losing my mind. I was crazy about, oh my God, I can call this, see like Patrick Fabian leaving a message. It's hilarious. Oh my God. So
sorry about that.
All right. I was mentioning the Hamlin's calling.
Okay. Also, one thing I wanted to mention, Dragon, because right before we dropped off, we were talking about the title of the episode being Smoke.
Yeah.
Isn't it ironic that the one thing that we thought for sure we were going to get was any Jimmy and Kim smoking, and that's like the one thing they intentionally left out?
Yeah, that is, and maybe it might be intentional. It might be like that's the thing they.
That's what I'm saying. I have a feeling it is intentional, because with this show, pretty much everything is intentional to a certain degree or another.
Right.
I think it's intentional to kind of break the status quo between Jimmy and Kim to a certain extent.
Sure.
All right.
Oh, by the way, I called this out while you were indisposed here, but real quick, did you know?
Indisposed? Is that what you want to call it?
Fine, gone, happy.
All right.
So anyway, did you, Tiki? I'm dying to know. Did you catch we had two big Breaking Bad Easter eggs. We had Beneke Fabricators, and we had Hinkle Laser Base, which I looked up. That's the exact same laser tag place. Huh?
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, again, you've been dying for the laser tag place.
Of course. Well, specifically, I've been dying for the Price connection to the laser tag.
Well, I'm saying they put we seen like a name shout out for
everybody needs a Danny.
I'm just saying, you never know. Again, we might need one to take over the place. You never know.
All right. Dragon, I'm terribly sorry. My computer is still kind of glitching out.
Maybe that's going to be a plot point this season. One of the various business aides circling. He didn't circle it here, but who knows?
Hey, buddy, your microphone's getting really glitchy. I don't know if it's just me, but I just kept going out. Yeah, I don't know. You might want to try going out.
The season.
Hey, can you hear me?
All right. Let's on things a little bit here. So again, so he's ignoring
Hey, man, you really need to. Oh my god.
Until he leaves a message. I mean, you didn't hear me, or you want me to keep going?
I want you to go out and come back in because you've been like breaking up for like the past 2 minutes. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, folks. Man, difficulties on both our ends. What are the odds? Anyways. So I'm not sure if Dragon shared this story or not, but one of the funny things is that, of course, with Better Call Saul, it's known for its great viral marketing. Specifically, it's known for the hello. Okay, that's a lot better. I don't know. I don't know if it was just on my end or your end or what. I don't know what that was.
All right. Anyway,
Dragon, did you tell the audience how you tried to call Hamlin's number?
Yeah. Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay. Got it. I was like kind of filling the space.
All right.
That story, but anyways. Right. Okay, so moving on, Dragon. Take the floor because you know where we are more than I do.
Okay, so for the umpteenth time, here we go. So it's okay. So Howard's calling, and he basically, until he leaves a message, they're
poor Hamlin. He's just always like he's just kind of like the poor sacrificial lamb this episode.
Yes, he is. So he calls, and it basically says it's about Chuck. And then we have this exemplary, we have this great emotionally raw arrival. We have this great, I don't know what it is, like the Dave Porter score is amazing in this scene. We take out
I'm glad you highlighted that piece of music too, Dragon. That was definitely a point for me.
Yeah, like we're going to Chuck's house, and you can feel it's just this somber. It has this somber, emotionally raw, like resin, like it's like a ringing bell almost, like a ringing in your ears of emotional rawness kind of going on in the scene. I like that. I love symbolically that Jimmy's wearing the American Samoa sweatshirt, which of course is kind of the symbol of the divide between him and Chuck. He's wearing that as he's coming there, which is just it's perfect and right on the nose, right on the money. Let's see. I love this. There was this really haunting bit. So again, before we have the really big visual effect reveal, before we have the big awesome reveal, Jimmy's on the scene, and he goes to the. I love the sudden reveal of the coroner van. Like that confirms it for anyone who's wondering. Like, is he? He says yes. And I love that Howard's
really. Okay, I just want to put this out there. Like, I don't want to be offensive or anything, but if anyone was truly expecting a switcheroo with Chuck's death, you're watching the wrong show.
That's true, but Tiki, for anyone who thought that, I'm going to give him like the one piece of credit that Beneke, Tiki. They could always pull a Beneke.
Fine.
I didn't think they would. I'm just saying you always have that potential.
Because that would just be so out of left field to have Chuck live, especially given where the story was going.
Chuck the burn victim.
All right.
Okay. Anyway, so I love the bit where like Hamilton again. Patrick Fabian is so minimal.
Oh, he's on fire. He's on fire, Dragon. Like I feel like all our dreams and all our in jokes about Patrick Fabian through the 14 months we've been waiting for the show to come back, they've all been realized, Dragon. They bore fruit.
I think on fire is the wrong choice of words, but yes. But yes, so we have the corner van as it pulls away, and Howard's like, "No, Jimmy, don't." Like, I love him warning him about that. It just really struck me. And then, of course, we have the big reveal now. Tiki, I learned about this from the Insider Podcast, but here's my experience watching. So we saw Chuck's at the reveal of Chuck's house.
It's like a Forrest Gump style visual effect. You know what I mean? It's a visual effect that's meant to not be looked at as a visual effect.
And that's the thing. I shouldn't have said visual effect, but here's the thing. When I saw it, it was so striking. When I was watching, I was like, I had no idea how that was done. I had to figure it was some sort of visual effect. Again, I don't even know all the ins and outs of how they made this happen, but by the same token, I'm just still kind of in the dark. Like, it looks so flawless. It looks like they actually burned down that house, which is impossible because they shoot at real locations in Albuquerque. No, they couldn't have, but it looks.
Dragon, did they actually burn down a house?
No, they burned down like the trees around it, but they did not burn down the house. Like that's the thing, they burned down elements like around it. But
just saying, Vince Gilligan, if anyone could get away with doing that, it'd be Vince Gilligan. And be like, come on, guys, I'll buy you all lunch. It'll be fine.
To be fair, they're still getting I don't know if it's still happening, but there's still a lot of heat because of the pizza. Because that poor old lady who owns that house, who owns the Walter White house, keeps getting pizzas thrown on her roof.
Oh God.
However, Jonathan Banks, I love how Jonathan Banks has leaped to her defense. Just saying, like, unless they like buckshot, they're not gonna throw pizza on that house. Anyway, so let's see. So Jimmy, I love Jimmy again. This has hit me in all the right places here again. Minky Spiro, she's doing such a phenomenal job directing this episode here because we have Jimmy sitting at the very bench where, like, the last moment that Jimmy and Chuck were friendly and brotherly towards each other, they were outside, and Chuck was, they're both putting their feet in the grass in front of the electronic transformer outside, the power transformer outside. Mm-hmm. And Jimmy now sits alone at this bench under the very same transformer. Like the last time he had a good experience with his brother was at this location. And Kim is like Kim and Howard. They're talking to like the fire marshal, getting the details. The investigator, the fire inspector, I should say. Kim tells Jimmy what she found out. It says that the fire was started from the inside. Was it by the lantern? Of course, the big symbol of last episode. Basically, Chuck's undoing in the courtroom was this lantern. It was a battery technically, but it was kind of a battery and a lantern. Anyway, so she says, this line was fantastic. Or she says, he was over fast. The smoke inhalation is what got him. Basically, when he fell, like the smoke killed him. He wasn't burned alive, so he didn't really suffer. And of course, Jimmy has this it's like a lawyer line that makes all the sense in the rules. Yeah, they're gonna say that. Just like even if it wasn't the case, they'd have to say like he didn't suffer. It's like, oh, poor Jimmy. So Jimmy, I love this. I love that Jimmy has put two and two together, seeing like all the appliances and everything in the backyard, thrown out in the backyard, basically realizing that again, he gets the full picture by the end of the episode. But even at this point, the last time that he visited Chuck, Chuck was, he was on top of the world. He was like having
he had the jazz music playing. He was having, that was also, of course, thematically, as we probably get into.
And something.
Go ahead.
Something that we still have not answered with the whole Chuck and Jimmy of it all is why exactly, when Chuck's condition started. Because you'll notice, even in season 1, we've always had the thing where Jimmy pulls a slipping Jimmy, or Jimmy does something, and Chuck has a relapse, or Chuck's condition kind of basically Chuck will do something that his condition will kind of worsen. Mm-hmm. Because the whole the hero thing, the billboard thing, then he went out to get the paper and everything went south for him, and that's kind of what we have here. Like I think that's going through Jimmy's head here. Like the last time I visited Chuck, I think he's blaming himself in part here that I visited him, and then the minute I left, everything went kaputski. And that right now it's just him blaming himself. Of course, later on we're going to have some actual some darning evidence.
Well, and of course we're also going to have some. Basically a hot potato of blame throughout the episode.
We'll get there. So basically what we have this whole episode is kind of tease a bit the big Jimmy arc. This whole episode is that we have this very realistic loss and compartmentalization. That's what Bob Odenkirk's playing this whole episode. He's playing compartmentalization in the most silent monosyllable Jimmy that we've ever had. It's a Jimmy of few words, and this, of course, the most verbose character in the Albuquerque verse, and we've never seen him this low on dialogue, and I think it's very interesting.
Oh yeah.
Because basically Kim's saying, like, again, very supportive, saying, "Let's just go home." Yeah. Okay, so then back to kind of the brighter spot of the Albuquerque verse.
Who do we love?
Mike. That's right, folks. As you can plainly see, just Tiki and I, we like to highlight every episode, every season that we love the character of Mike Ehrmantraut. There's something special about the guy, and we like to shout that out every episode in our little ways. And this is one of them there. So I like to express it visually. We heart Mike.
All right, so Dragon, I'm just going to get this out of the way, all right?
All right.
I like the Mike storyline. I definitely think this is better than the season 3 opener with Mike. But I'm noticing a trend with the Mike season openers, and that trend is it's basically just kind of like, oh, Mike's up to something, but we're not going to know what until the end of the episode. And Dragon, I don't know. To me, it's a little bit too much of a slow burn. Like there's a good 2 or 3 minutes of this Mike stuff that I could have just cut out of the episode completely. Like, don't get me wrong, it's all good stuff and it leads to something, but like at this point, I'm anxious for the Mike stuff to start dovetailing into Gus and Jimmy, which will probably happen as soon as next episode, judging by the promo. But I don't know. This episode, it kind of just felt like the greatest hits of Mike. You know what I mean? It's like, yep, this guy, we can kind of see what he can do.
Well, Tiki, I think they're giving the audience a lot of credit in a good way here, where, again, you can put together what Mike's doing, and even so, again, if it were any other show, then there's a scene later we'll get to. There's a scene that I really would... I'm going to save it for a scene. I have a big defense for the Mike stuff. We'll get to it when we get to it. All right, just more on that a little later here, but just getting through the Mike stuff that we do have right up front here. Basically, we have Mike's last day at the toll booth. And he has this nice moment where he says goodbye to Carl. Like, again, we've set up Carl, and they used him before. Like, Carl's like the other guy who works the day shift works one of the shifts at the toll booth. And we have this bit here with the windbreaker. This is like a moment with Jonathan Banks that kind of broke my heart in the best of ways. Like, oh my god, it's such a perfect Mike moment here. It's like, this is why I love Mike. Where he there are 2 moments that just make me scream. We heart Mike. Just like these 2 moments. This is one of them here, where it's just like where Carl, as Mike's leaving, Carl says, "The boss spoke to the boss. He wants the windbreaker." And of course, just Jonathan Banks delivers this in such an Emmy, like an understated Emmy award-winning way here, where he just says, "Of course he does." Gives him the windbreaker, and it's like, yeah, poor Mike. He liked this toll. A part of him really liked this toll booth job. He gave his all for such a small job, and it's like the one memento he wanted. Like, why couldn't he let him keep the windbreaker? Come on. Anyway, okay. So, but also it's maybe a little symbolic of he can't come back to this life. He's got to move forward in a story. I don't know.
Sure.
We have Mike and Kaylee, and this is a fun callback here. We have some little hose shenanigans here. We're basically
oh my god, Dragon, this is just fucking adorable, man.
And this is the cornerstone of when we first saw Mike at least when we first saw Mike and Kaylee stuff in Breaking Bad, because the whole gist of that, Tiki, was that it's Mike as the most dangerous agent, but at the same time, the most loving grandfather, because we had him get with the balloons in Breaking Bad, where he had these balloons that we knew he was going to use for some really awesome purpose, real deadly awesome purpose, while at the same time he gave some to his granddaughter. And we have a very identical situation here, where
with the hose.
Yes, the hose. See, folks, what happened here is I think this is Mike's house. I can't quite remember if it's because I think Stacy's house is a lot nicer, but I can't quite tell in the backyard. The point is, like, there's a little garden in back, and Mike is there's like this little garden, and Mike has at least built this thing, and he supplied the hose. And what he's done is he used the hose that he made the makeshift, spike, the spike strip. He made the makeshift spike strip from Nailed. Where he, where basically he stopped the Salamanca truck and everything from season 2, that whole thing. And he repurposed. He took out all the nails and basically he used as like a watering system for the plants. Like, he steps on, it takes his foot off, and of course all the water sprinkles everywhere like a little. So he turned into like a sprinkling system for the plants. Adorable. So Stacy's coming by, and basically, Mike says, I have more flexible hours. I could, I make my own hours now. I don't work at the toll booth anymore. I could watch her more if it'd help you. And of course, oh, no, thanks, Mike. Oh.
I've got a big theory on this one, Dragon. We'll put a pin in this, but I don't know. I have a bad feeling about Kaylee this season. Obviously, she's not going to die, but
yeah, that would be strange.
I don't know. It's like ominous clouds are kind of hanging over this whole thing for me.
All right. So, okay, let's see. So, following this, okay, so Mike, he receives a check from Madrigal. Basically, the arrangement that he struck with Lydia and Gusfording and the whole shebang, basically, where he's getting checks from the amount of money that he had stolen from someone. Basically, it's being laundered through Madrigal, and he has like an unofficial. He has kind of like an off the books job title at Madrigal.
Mhm.
He's a security consultant at Madrigal, and he's getting paid for it like as a salary, and he's like earns like 10,000, I believe $10,120.51. That's at least what this check was. So this I feel is a scene up to interpretation. TV. See, Mike. I figured Mike doesn't like getting paid for doing nothing, and again, like Mike Ehrmantraut has a code. Like he doesn't like kind of I don't think like just kind of sitting around here. And at the very least, it's either that or he wants to legitimize his story. So again, he wants to legitimize things for Stacy because again, if Stacy's going to ask questions, he wants to verify it. So there's a lot to read into with this scene. I think this one's really left up to the audience. What do you think?
My theory is that I think he's just kind of like crossing the I's and dotting the T's. Like if he's going to do this, if he's going to get into this life, he wants to, he's going to take that security consultant job and he's going to make it personal. You know what I mean?
Sure, and my other thing, my driving thing when I was watching it, I still kind of feel this way. Again, I think it's not the main reason, but I think it's like an underlying reason of all like what the character's motivation is before it's like what the logic of the motivation is. I feel Mike's just kind of bored. Really, I just feel like he just kind of has nothing to fill his days. Like basically, he's getting paid for staying home, just being entitled there. And I think you're absolutely right. I think that he's making the story iron tight. But I think a part of it is just just kind of doesn't want to sit around all day doing nothing when he has like a job title and everything. I think he's just kind of bored, honestly. I know it sounds simple, but I mean I think
it's a very Vince Gilligan explanation, honestly.
That's what I think. I just think part of it is just legitimately like it's just kind of like I don't want to be paid for doing nothing. I just want to I want to one it's going to help me practically and also just kind of emotional. I'm just kind of bored.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, of course, he's watching the Albuquerque Isotopes game, which again, thematicism, might be a little inkling there, a little reminder for Gene, a little connecting point to Gene. All right, so Mike calls Madrigal for stuff later on. Okay, meanwhile, take us through the next bit here.
So we get the symbolic shot of, I believe it's the cereal going down the drain or something.
No, it's just going down the drain. It has water going down the drain, so it's like
it's just done in an artful way then.
Like dishes or something, like suds and stuff. It's basically, Jimmy's hope is going down the drain, essentially.
Dragon, basically, this episode is just wall to wall. Like Film Brain would have a heyday with this episode with all the symbolism.
Yep.
All right, oh my God, Dragon, Howard calls, and what does Howard want? Oh God.
So Howard. I'm sorry. This scene was brilliant. I just love this idea so much. So,
there's a little detail I caught on the rewatch that I hope you caught too. A little detail that honestly I think means the world.
We'll see. I think I caught it, but let me.
Okay.
Let's go through here. So again, Howard calls. So by the way, just for the whole, I'm real quick. Kim, when she turns off the water and everything, Jimmy has like this 1,000-yard stare going on here, and I love the fact that Kim can see that Jimmy's off his game, and basically, she's unsure. Like Kim is kind of like us, the audience. Like we're not sure how to process what Jimmy's going through here, and that she's supportive. We want Jimmy to pull through this, and we're going to see where that pays off at the end. Like again, like she's being supportive and doing all the things that she should do and what she can. But again, like Jimmy's very. It's kind of scary how introspective Jimmy is. We've never seen him like this. So as this is happening, Howard calls, and basically he wants to run the obituary by Jimmy, and basically as he runs through this obituary, unless you have the dog, just have summarized the main points.
I mean, Dragon, what I could do is I have it on Amazon here. I could like go through it if you want.
Well, I mean, if you feel it's relevant, sure.
Oh God. All right, look, I'm gonna make this as a challenge to myself, okay? I'm gonna see how far I can get, all right? Okay. Oh God. Charles Lindbergh McGill, a towering figure in the Albuquerque legal community who built one of the leading law firms in the Southwest, was taken from this world tragically and suddenly last week. Son of Ruth and Willard McGill, Charles was born and raised in Cicero, Illinois, outside of Chicago. Charles graduated valedictorian from high school at the age of 14, making him the youngest graduate in history of that school. Rustling the papers. In his undergraduate years at the University of Pennsylvania, Charles led the debate team to national championship 3 years running and won the Larkin Prize. He was editor-in-chief of the Law Review and won first-year moot court competition at Georgetown Law, where he went on to graduate magna cum laude. After clerking at both Delaware Court of Checking and the United States Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit, Charles joined Hamlin's solo practice. George Hamlin solo practice, and I'm going to stop right there because we get a George Hamlin Easter egg.
So there's a lot to. Okay, there's some big things we got to unpack here. Okay, first off,
basically the gist of it is that Charles Hamlin is just like going way overboard with the like you can only do so much with an obituary. You know what I mean? He's like trying to like cram every single detail and every single accomplishment. Like it's so wordy. You know what I mean? That's kind of like if I were like I took 4 years of creative writing, and I'm like, man, you got to structure this better, Howard.
The point is, an obituary is usually, I think, at most maybe 2 paragraphs, like a paragraph, 2 paragraphs most. I think again, it depends, like the the importance and if the family's involved, stuff like that. But let's see. So a few things I want to touch on here is to kind of summarize what a lot of that I was getting to and the main points of all that. And of course, to hit the big note you stopped on, Tiki. So basically, Howard's calling to run this obituary by Jimmy. It's like this glowing remembrance of Chuck. This basically of Chuck, this towering legal figure. And I imagine it's a reminder for Jimmy. Again, I'm interpreting Jimmy here, and that's kind of what the audience.
No, I don't even think there's much to interpretation. It is a reminder to Jimmy of how little he's accomplished compared to Chuck. I don't even think that's subtext. I think that's just text.
Well, I mean, not just that. I'm saying the whole feud between the two of them, and just all the things, like basically all the stuff that Chuck felt he was superior over with Jimmy, and along with that, I feel like this is coming at a time where Jimmy doesn't really want to hear all this, and by the same token, you're right, it is very wordy, and I would read into it on a second.
Like this dark comedy where Hamlin like pauses, and then we think it's over, and then he keeps going.
Yeah, I caught. Okay, so real quick, I love that. Here's the dark comedy for me in this thing. So initially, I read this as Hamlin. He gives like it sounds almost like that thing we love with Hamlin, where Hamlin. There's always a question of how much is Hamlin a good guy versus how much is Hamlin kind of selling his own. Basically, again, Hamlin is a character. The way Fabian plays Hamlin is that he's a character who wants to keep the lights on, wants to keep the cushy lifestyle going. That's what he wants to do. And and you get a sense of he's just kind of selling the HHM of it all within the obituary, which cracked me up the first. Like
right, it's almost like an ad in the middle of the obituary.
I mean, like the line that stuck out to me the most out of the whole thing, aside from George Hamlin, was the whole like the leading law firm in the Southwest or something. That's him like selling HHM. It's the feeling. But here's the thing, though. On a rewatch, though, I feel the reason it's so wordy, and I think it's Hamlin overcompensating because he's guilty. Mm-hmm. I think that's why it's so wordy on a rewatch. And I did catch a mistake, Tegan. The history of Better Call Saul, I really legitimately only captured. First of all, the first one I didn't really capture. This is the first one I caught. There's only been 2 mistakes in the history of Better Call Saul, as far as I could see. 2 mistakes.
Oh man.
This is the second one. The first one, Vince Gilligan pointed out that they screwed up. And it's a very minor thing. It's like Officer Saxton, one of the cops from Breaking Bad, was in Better Call Saul season 2, and they got the name tag wrong. And that's something Vince Gilligan pointed out. But this one I caught. They got the father's name wrong. They got not George Hamlin. They got Jimmy's dad, Jimmy and Chuck's father's name wrong. That's kind of big.
Oh.
Ruth and they mentioned Ruth and Willard McGill. Now, they've established Chuck himself. I made sure I wasn't crazy. As I went to Netflix, I went back in the episode, I rewatched because I remember this line. I double checked it, and I was right. It was Chuck said, "I took his name," implying that, of course. Now I'm not sure how much wiggle room you have here. I mean, I don't know if Willard is a nickname for Chuck. Last time I checked,
seems like a stretch.
I know, right? I mean, unless that's the case, and you can understand my confusion here, that he said, "I took his name," as in Chuck Sr. And I think they might have said Chuck Sr. along the lines at some point too, with regards to, Charles McGill Sr. So, like the idea is Chuck's a junior. And and the father that we saw in the flashback, that's Chuck Sr. And now his name's Willard all of a sudden. I think someone goofed up in the writer's room.
Maybe the best explanation I can give is maybe Chuck was the middle name of the father, or Charles was the middle name, like Willard Charles McGill.
I got to tell you, I didn't think of that. And now you bring it up. I'm going to hope that's the case. I'm going to give him the benefit of that. I'm so glad you brought that, because I'm going to, fingers crossed, I hope that's the case. I want that to be the case. I'm going to assume that's the case.
Either that or Chuck's first name is technically Willard and Charles is Chuck's middle name.
The point is, Chuck is somehow it might be a surname within
yeah.
Name, right? Just the middle or whatever. The point is, I'd like that. I'm going to go with that.
All right. Happy to help.
Anyway, okay, let's see. So,
Dragon, the detail that I caught on a rewatch that I thought was really important is that through all this, I feel like Jimmy's just waiting for his name to be mentioned. And Dragon,
no, I didn't catch this. Oh my God.
What happens as soon as Jimmy puts down the phone?
He walks away.
Well, yeah, he walks away, but Howard says Jimmy's name. Howard says that Chuck is preceded by his lovely brother Jimmy.
I remember he mentioned Jimmy, but I didn't pick up on the fact that he left just as it was being. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah. That's something I picked up on the rewatch. Jimmy leaves the phone just as Howard's about to get to that, Howard's about to name drop him.
That's brilliant, Dick. I didn't figure he was waiting for his name to be. That's great.
It's super subtle, but I think it's important. Yeah.
I mean, I caught again. Basically, I like the uncertainty in Fabian's performance here of Howard's kind of saying this because again he feels
also guilty. Does Hamlin have this all memorized?
No, he's reading it off the page, Dickie.
But I was kind of looking at it I don't see, he's not holding a piece of paper or anything. Is he looking down at a piece of paper?
Yeah, he's looking down at a piece of paper.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying I could have sworn he's holding paper. I know there's paper on that desk.
Well, I was checking. I don't think he's got paper in his hand.
I mean, you said there was rustling, implying that he's looking through papers. I mean, I don't know. The point is, I know there's paper on that.
Important.
Anyway, what was I getting at? Oh yes. So we have this the really clever excuse to basically this whole scene is a great way to kind of cut between get into Jimmy's head and have exposition through Howard Hamlin. Basically, we have this exposition about Chuck's life, and basically again us gauging what's going on in Jimmy's headspace as this very expository dialogue is going through, and of course we have an extra reason for it by the end of this with why Howard's going to all this effort and making this grand eulogy. But again, this is a great kind of plot excuse of okay, this is how we kind of have Chuck visually in Jimmy's head. And kind of this long drawn out scene. Of course, George Hamlin. We got Howard's father's name finally. George Hamlin, yeah. So
in my headcanon, George Hamlin will always be Robert Redford.
Hey, unless we see otherwise, I'm with you there.
Well, Robert Redford's retired now, so it's not going to happen. But
well, again, that's what I'm saying. If we never see him, hey, okay, Robert Redford played him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, if we never see him, then that's the headcanon.
Sure.
So Jimmy puts it.
So Jimmy puts the phone down and
Kim grabs the drink that I believe this is the same drink that they conned off of Ken Wins, right?
Well, no. Here's what happens. So, okay, first of all, Kim takes notice and she confirms the plans with Jimmy. Jimmy.
Right.
And here's what happens. So we have this beautiful moment of Kim. She grabs the Sarajevo. Now, the Sarajevo, Tiki, I don't know if you recall, in season 3, the end of season 3.
It's been a while since I've watched season 3, Dragon. So
again, in the episode this director did in Fall, the one where Kim had the car accident, right before she had the car accident, Jimmy, he closed the settlement.
Oh, yeah, right. She was going to take the drink, yeah.
And she didn't because, again, this the whole, hey, let's celebrate. Give me a few minutes here. And I guess she left, right the minute he pulled the stand.
Gotcha.
So there's a great thematic, again, the last time they were at the top, Jimmy was at the top of his game for doing something really bad. he was presenting the Sarajevo, and now Kim's using this, in the aftermath here to kind of cheer him up. And of course, she's thinking back to Ken Wins, though. You're right; she's thinking back to Ken Wins, and also thinking back to when Jimmy was last really happy with the celebration for the settlement. It's kind of a little bit of both there. So she does this adorable thing that's just so fantastic and so beautiful. Yeah, she pats the seat. It's like, again, Ray Seahorn, obviously, there's only one Farmiga, but I like to think like she's like if there's like an office space where Farmiga and Elodie Young are kind of like palling around at like a little workplace setting or something. I'd like to think that Kim West, Ray Seahorn, is like kind of like the neighbor, like the co-worker of Vera Farmiga.
Oh man.
Anyway,
I feel like we need to get Beverly from the Goldbergs involved in this somehow too.
Oh, sure. It's like if there's a PTA group. Anyway, so we have this. So she does this adorable hand motion. I remember Giancarlo Esposito. I think it was either Giancarlo or it was Michael Mando really talked this moment up, and they were absolutely right about this adorable moment here. So we have this elapsed time shot of like Kim. She's like. I
gotta say, this was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like a whole montage.
I thought so too, but again, it just kind of it fit though. I honestly, the first time I saw
it fit well. I'm not saying that it definitely fit well. It kind of surprised me given how much it was talked up. Like, don't get me wrong, it was a great shot.
I thought she was going to be gone. I didn't know she was still in the chair, and we saw. I thought that was the perfect punchline to this here. Where like she drank the whole bottle. I think is empty, and like Jimmy probably took a few shots, but I think she.
No, actually, Dragon. Visually, Jimmy's shot glass is still full the next time we see him.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, he didn't. Wait a minute. You sure he didn't drink once?
No, he drinks once. He takes one shot.
Okay.
And then the next time we see him, his shot glass is full. So don't get me wrong. He could have taken more and then poured a shot. And
sure, I got you. Okay, so there's a good
visually the fact that his shot glass is full. Like what we're supposed to get out of that is he only had the one shot.
Sure. Okay, I got it. Oh man, that's clever. I like that. So anyway, so Kim, she's kind of conked out on the couch. It's kind of an adorable image, but again, a striking image that Jimmy's not really quite in sync here with Kim. He's just kind of still kind of introspective and kind of thinking about life here. It's just kind of still, we're still unsure like how affected is Jimmy by Chuck's passing, or at least in what ways, more accurately. And we'll get there.
So let's second, is Kim still on painkillers? If so, she probably shouldn't be drinking that much.
Well, honestly,
I just want to point that out for like as a PSA out there.
Well, we know she was taking painkillers because they had that bit of like you want like Tom. It was like some generic like over the counter like Tylenol or something, where you want the good stuff. Says Jimmy, always the good stuff. We had that moment in episode 10 in Lantern.
Right.
And so I mean, she's probably again this is like right after that episode, so she might. I don't know.
I'm just saying, Dragon, that's not a good combination. She drank a lot of alcohol.
Okay, to be fair, a night has gone by, so she took him and then she went to sleep, and now it's the next morning, basically when the whole Chuck affair happened, and then she's fallen asleep again. I'm going to assume she did not take any painkillers. I'm going to be optimistic and say she didn't take any painkillers the day when all this is
all right.
That's just optimism.
Okay.
So following this whole...
Oh, and I just realized, Dragon, I'm doing a lousy job of switching back and forth between the images. You need to get on me about this.
Well, we're still, we went back to this stuff, so I guess we're still
no, I mean, I'm on mic.
Oh, now I see that.
So now we're on this man.
Yes. So now we have the cartel link up here. Now, either this is a flashback. I presume this is just a flashback to earlier events. But there's a chance, like the original events here could. Basically, the point is this might be in out of order. Like perhaps Chuck passes, then the night that Kim's like falling asleep there, then the cartel stuff from the end. I
didn't really think too hard about the timeline, if I'm being honest.
Well, I mean, again, I was thinking about it when we were doing the speculation, so I was kind of keeping an eye because I was wondering if they're going to link this up directly. Like we did the.
I would say this maybe happens the night that Chuck dies.
That's the thing. I mean, that's the assumption, but I'm just saying chronologically we're not entirely certain about that. So who knows? It's either a flashback to before, or it's just they might have rearranged something. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So basically link up, when Hector was taken away in the ambulance. We link up with the exact moment we ended off on with cartel stuff. Hector's taken away. Nacho has collected the pills, and then we have Nacho and Chuck. Sorry, God, I'm thinking about. Now you got me thinking about Nacho and Gus alone, and Gus he's calling Bolsa, and again more intense pill stuff with Nacho. Again, they know their audience here.
Right.
Nacho, he eyes the storm drain. I love this. He eyes the storm drain because now he switched the pills as he was instructed to. Now he has to get rid of the evidence. He has to get rid of the bad pills essentially, because he gave the good pills to the ambulance to the EMT, I suppose. So now he has to get rid of the. And he's really back. And we have this. I love we have this crack on the storm drain. He just needs to make that shot. He needs to put his coat pill throwing prowess into effect here. Nacho can do this. And of course, the minute he's about to go for the shot, Gus enters and he tells him, we're going to meet with Bolsa. Bolsa wants to speak with us. So you drive. So Nacho's stuck with those pills. He's going to a meeting and he's praying the guy's not going to get searched. So now we're at. I presume a Pollos Hermanos warehouse of some kind, I presume.
Everything happens in the warehouse, right?
Yeah, I mean,
we see boxes upon boxes of Pollos Hermanos salsa, which was kind of fun.
That's the thing. I don't think it's the chicken farm, but you never know. I don't think
it's the chicken farm either. I think it's like the place where they store their bulk ingredients.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's what yeah. So let's see. So basically, we have Nacho and we have Arturo. Arturo was the other. This guy's going to be important, so we should definitely talk up Arturo a little bit here. So Arturo, he's he's the other guy that works for Hector. Anyway, they're waiting for Gus and Bolsa. Bolsa and Gus are talking about the arrangements and everything. Now these guys are called in, basically to summarize things a little bit here. This is the first time Nacho has met with Bolsa. And Bolsa, I know about you, Arturo, but this guy, I don't know any of it. And Arturo, importantly, he vouches. He's Tuco's man. Basically, he serves the Salamanca, therefore he's good. I vouch for him. So basically, Bolsa's giving us the download here, basically filling the stuff. Again, kind of an exposition thing, but very minimal. Just saying, Don Hector's had a stroke. We don't know how bad it is, but right now, obviously he's not in commission. And the plan, as it stands, is that the territory is to remain Salamanca territory, and operations are to remain as usual. And Nacho and Arturo are supposed to keep things running as smoothly as they usually do. Basically, do the same old, even though Salamanca is not in the picture right now. You have to keep up appearances. And if you do well, you'll get rewarded. Do well and it will be noticed. So basically, you guys do well here, you might bump up a little bit. Who knows? So let's see. So Bolsa kind of says to Gus alone here, says, Hector, he was trouble. I'm sorry, you want to go through this?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So we have, basically Hector was trouble, but he kept his house in order, and Gus warns Bolsa that someone is probably, most likely, again, you got to remember, Gus, he was a Chilean national, and again, very inclined. We don't know all the details about Gus's backstory. The idea he could have been a military.
Yeah, that's because they're saving it for the third Breaking Bad Out universe show.
Now, you joke about that, Tiki, but Vince Gilligan recently has said, hey, I'm not ruling out any Breaking Bad spinoffs. I kid you not. I just said, look, I'm not.
At this point, I feel like Vince Gilligan would be content to spend the rest of his career in this universe, and we, the fans, would love him for that. Frankly,
I gotta tell you, Gus. Honestly, what I want is just the Gus Fring miniseries. I don't need a whole another television series. But
that's what you say until you see the first 10 episodes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. So nobody else. Yeah. I'm in the bag for what Gilligan's putting now, let's be frank, yep. He's that good, though. But anyway, so Gus warns...
I would take a Badger and Skinny Pete spinoff.
True. Huel Chronicles.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we're going a little too far with that one.
Okay.
It'd just be 10 episodes of him sitting in the safe house.
You probably even see a breakfast cooking show with Walter Jr.
Oh God,
cooking with Flynn.
You know what? I would totally watch that. That could totally be a web series. In all honesty,
it could be a web series. Absolutely, yes. Anyway, so the point is, Gus,
because Walter Jr. has experience with web stuff.
Yes, and then here's the hook, Tiki. Here's what happens. We do
Okay, we're going off the rails on this, but okay, go ahead, round this out.
It turns into a YouTube Red series at the very end, where basically you think it's like a little web series, and then basically ends with like the camera stops, and then we see what Walt Jr. is doing next. Like,
It gets a Breaking Bad sequel.
Basically, it turns into Gene at the very end. Essentially, it's like, oh my.
Wait. Are you saying that? Are you saying that? No. What if Gene was the new stepfather?
No, God, no. Anyway, okay,
Saul did have a thing for Skylar.
God. Anyway, okay, look, getting back on point here. So Gus warns that someone's going to move on Salamanca's territory, which leads to war, which leads to chaos, which
it's a very Yoda-like line, don't you think?
Essentially, yes. I'm saying which brings. He says which brings more accurately, but it is very Yoda-esque. Someone's going to move on the Salamanca territory, which is going to bring war, which brings chaos, which brings DEA.
Which brings Hank Schrader.
Yes.
Potentially. Probably.
Or, maybe Steve Gomez. We can definitely get Gomez here. No problem.
Sure.
At the very least, we know the boss is going to show. Anyway, I'm sorry, we're getting off track. So, Nacho, he pulls over a bridge. He dumps the pills. Victor watches, though. Bum, bum, bum. Victor's watching. Not only is he watching, Tiki, he's pulling a mic. He has an identical tracking device that that Mike had, and he's been tracking Nacho's car to see what Nacho's up to, because Gus got a vibe about this guy, and again we saw that Gus looked at him funny, and we see what Gus Fring does when he looks at you funny. He puts tracers and bugs on your car and everything.
Right.
Do not get into a staring contest with Gus Fring. It'll never end well, folks. A little PSA there. Okay, now Tiki. This fascinates me. This is my big let me begin my defense of the mic stuff here. So,
all right,
we cut back from that scene from the Gus cartel stuff, and then we cut to this thing, which was the most bizarre, out of left field.
I thought for sure we were like introducing a new character or something.
Initially, I was thinking, like, wait a minute. I mean, am I watching like that show they keep forcing down my throat?
Oh my God! It's the new Into the Badlands, isn't it?
No, but seriously, they kept pushing. AMC did this weird thing where basically they wanted to sell the show that came on after this, Lion Club 49. It's some sort of fraternity show. Anyway, the point is, some new show, and what they did is they held off the next episode on Better Call Saul with they didn't do it until like the second commercial break of that show.
Right. So they're basically holding you hostage because that's a way to gain an audience.
Because it's the first episode, and they know people are going to tune in for this, so they might as well stick around. And it's so bizarre. Anyway, the point is, I was thinking, like, are they? What is this like an extended commercial for that? Like, what's going on here? So, we have this bizarre, out of left field scene with Barry and his son.
No, not Bill Hader.
Barry and his son's kind of this nice.
Granted, it wouldn't completely shock me if they kind of like drew some reference to Barry.
I dig it. Barry and his son like on a bike.
Vince Gilligan knows good TV when he sees it.
He does. So we have Barry, this employee of Magical, and his son. Again, we didn't know that. We've been watching. It's like, okay, so a guy and his son. And again, it seems like Barry seems like a nice guy. Just my couple of minutes of screen time with him. His son needs help with his bike chain. Says, "You want me to do it?"
I like how he takes the time to make sure his son says thank you.
Yeah, which is nice. So basically, then he goes into his car and he realizes the battery's dead, and he's missing his ID badge. And that's when I started to realize, this is when it started coming to frame for me, like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing. Basically, I realized, again, this is my big defense was always, so basically he calls into work saying, he needs, he's going to be late and everything. And of course, his ID badge is missing. We have a great ID transition to the Mike stuff. And, of course, little Gene link with the importance of IDs and driver's license and everything. A lot of Gene symbolism throughout this episode with Mike's stuff, interesting enough. So I got to tell you, a scene that out of left field takes me back to season 2, episode 8, before we had like the big payoff with the Spike strip, where like Mike's just like, we know Mike's up to something, and we just kind of like, again, like I was.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Dragon. I'm not saying it's a bad thing per se. I'm just saying it is starting to become a pattern for Mike, where we're getting these scenes with like, all right, what's up, Mike? What's Mike up to? We know that it's something badass, but we don't know quite what.
Speaking honestly, I just equated to this very simply. After the episode, it was a learning experience for me, because I just realized that the only time I was ever worried about an episode of Better Call Saul was episode 8, because of the way it ends. Like, it was a great episode, but it kind of ended incomplete. But then I realized, if the next episode had not paid that off the way I hoped it was going to be paid, had the next episode not paid off that ending, it would have been a glaring issue, and they paid it off. So I think it's just, when I saw this moment, I was kind of jettisoned back to that memory. It's like, wait a minute, okay, they're going somewhere with this, and I'm inclined to trust them. And Tiki, it does pay off this episode. But the next scene tells, at least gives.
No, you're right. You're right. It does pay off. I'm not complaining about that. I never
honestly,
was.
that's just my response to the Mike stuff on the whole. Is that I trust they're going to pay it off. So it's a grand whole thing. That's not a problem.
Okay.
Anyways, okay, so we have Mike at Magical. And this sequence I thought was really well conceived. So Mike's at Magical with Barry Hedberg. It's a weird name, Barry Hedberg's badge. He walks in unnoticed, and the minute he's walking unnoticed, I'm starting to put pieces together here. And again, I was thinking, like, am I crazy for thinking this? And I was like, yep. By the end, I was kind of right. I was just walking in, and it was the clever. It's this clever thing that Mike's doing. He's walking in the Magical, and basically, as the security consultant, he's gauging the security weaknesses. And I thought that was so brilliant. That's classic Mike. That's what Mike would do in this job. And he's just walking in with like someone else's ID badge. If someone really looked at it and just like looked at one guy and looked at the other, they put 2 and 2 together here. Well, wait a minute, something's off here. He just walks right in. All it took him was a badge. He takes a clipboard and a mug. That's all it takes. The walking, and later on a vest. I mean, that's about it. That's all he needs to go in anywhere. He just needs one item from that workplace to go in completely unscathed. Then he goes to the office, like kind of kitchen lounge. We have these 2 co-workers that are arguing about like a hypothetical street fight between Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali. And yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, Mike puts an end to that conversation very fast.
Does he have a gun? What? Bruce Lee, does he have a gun? Because that's the only way he's taking them Muhammad Ali.
If not, Ali takes him down in 3 minutes flat.
And of course, Mike would know after gloves off.
So
I love this. He's looking at this information on again, he's getting all this information from the bulletin board, again, stuff that he needs to know. And then we have this moment that was hilarious to me for 2 reasons. One, because I have like a slice of life moment for me here. Mike's after he says something again, it assists the other guy. Like says, "Hey, can you sign the birthday card?" He says, "It's Tina's birthday. Have you signed the card yet?" "No." "Do you mind?" He says, and of course, Jonathan Banks with this fantastic. I love this delivery by Jonathan Banks. He says, "Not at all." I just love that. I think that's my favorite delivery. Again, bear in mind, folks, the season's just begun, but I think it's my favorite delivery so far in this season. Again, so far, it's only 1 episode in. Not at all. And he goes there. He signs the card, and one, he does something really clever with the signature here. But one, I love that it's a ridiculous, silly cat card. And I've shopped for birthday cards, and I was like, when I was shopping for birthday cards recently, I saw like silly cat cards identical to this. Wasn't the same card, but it was like identical to this type of card where they have like a cake and they have a cat doing something ridiculous with.
I wouldn't be surprised if I were to walk into my local drugstore right now and find a card with the exact same, like, have a perfect birthday or something like that.
Yeah, it was like basically it was a card like a cat. The one I saw was like a cat, like he was stuffed his face with cake. It was like, what cake? It was something like that. It was so ridiculous.
Oh God, that's so corny. I love it.
I know, it looked identical. It looked like that card. It was like that kind of cat, but always like stuffed with like these giant cheeks on the cat. That was about it. So anyway, so he signs the birthday card with Barry's name, and it says a reach for the stars, Barry Hedberg.
Now, if only it would have said reach for the sky, Dragon.
Well, I mean, I was lost my mind at that. But anyway, so then we have this great little sequence again. This is where it confirms in my head, okay, I know exactly what he's doing. This is fantastic. he finds them. Basically, have this scene, this wonderful scene where Mike puts on like a little like a construction vest, and he's on the loading dock essentially. And again, this is the same loading dock that we were at in season 5, where Lydia and Jesse, Jesse stops by to get the barrel with the bee on it. That whole thing. He finds them. Mike, he drives by on this little go-kart, and it's hilarious. A little go-kart. See, I just love John Banks. I hope he had a good time driving this little go-kart. I'm sure he's crashing into things. I like to think that he had a good time on this thing. He's grabbing the manifest, and again, like everything he needs at his fingertips. And I love finding all the lapses in security before Mike says them at the end here. It's like he's just going around. He's like, he finds like fully constructed documents in the trash and everything. Like no one's paying him mind at all. He tells Ramirez and his guys.
I can relate to that, by the way, Dragon. It might work. The size of the trash is very important, so you never want to do anything that's going to take up more room in the dumpster than you need to. Right. So I can relate to that one in particular.
We have this great PSA from Mike that just cracks me up. And again, it's a good PSA too, because I know guys who are going to have to lift things from time to time. And this is a really good piece of advice. He tells Ramirez and company here, says, "Hey, here's whistles." Again, Mike's going on unnoticed this entire time. He whistles.
Well, he just like finger gestures them over.
I just love it. They assume he's like the foreman or something. Again, he's the guy because of the vest, I guess, and just like not recognize him at all. No questions. Just like, "Hey, you get over here." He says, "Hey, where's your lift belts? You get your lift belts and get some gloves on." It's this great PSA. It's just so sweet. I think Mike's genuinely concerned about the safety there, but he's testing to see if they're going to notice. But at the same time, he's helping them out, which is really nice. So he says, "Rules are rules." On the double. So I gotta tell you, I got a huge kick out of all this Mike stuff. So then he returns to.
Dragon, I gotta say, I like it better than I like the season 3 stuff with the bug for sure. I thought that stuff was really slow paced.
I mean, that's the thing. It's slow. This is more of a slow burn with like it's a. I don't want to just say smart because the other thing's smart too, but this is like it's more finalized. It's more complete, I guess. It's more complete ... than just ... if that makes any sense. ...
Yeah.
So he
that's
returns,
a Survivor reference.
I have no idea. Okay. So he returns Barry's badge, and of course Barry says, "Oh, thank you." And he says, "I need to speak to your manager." You see Barry scared because he thinks, "Oh my god, because I lost my badge. He's going to tell." Of course, not realizing that Mike broke into his car and he basically drained his battery so he'd be delayed to work and everything. It's great. So let's see. So Mike awesomely. Jonathan Banks. This is like an Emmy mode for Jonathan Banks. You just have hilarious for like a comedy Emmy here, more accurately. So this awesome Jonathan Banks awesomely chews out this manager. I've heard Jonathan Banks go in these rants on commentators and stuff, so he sounds just like this when he does these hilarious rants.
Is it just me, or does this manager look suspiciously like a live action Hank Hill?
Yeah, he had a vague Hank Hill thing about him.
I'm just saying, like with the glasses and the haircut and everything.
That's the thing. It looked almost.
I know it's a silly observation, but
it's vaguely Hank Hill-esque. Vaguely. Anyway, let's see. Getting through. Okay, so basically, Mike does this hilarious, awesome thing where he chews out this manager over all the lapses in security. Basically, I was able to waltz through security. There's. They got no second look whatsoever. Your doors were open. You're still using pen and paper notes and documents when you should be going to electronic inventory devices. There are duplicate routing numbers on your inventory. You have blind spots on the cameras. Your documents are not shredded. And again, he's just going into this whole thing. He says, "Well, wait, who are you?" "Ermintrout, security consultant." And he says, like, I don't know. I don't know anything about a security consultant. Of course, Banks delivers this line in such a perfect, like, this is a clip that you'd play for like for your consideration Emmy line for a comedy. This is the perfect line right here where he says, "Well, you wouldn't now, would you?" Yeah. They basically said, I think Mike overplays his hand. I think Mike does make an error here. We're going to get, I don't think it's going to be an error in the grand scheme of things, but I think, we'll get into inspect. He says, "What I want you to do is I want you to call corporate Lydia Rodart Quayle."
Oh, yeah.
I think that's going to come back, and we'll speculate on that momentarily. Okay, Tiki, brighten us all up with a funeral, would you?
Well, Clifford Maine is there. He's always fun.
Yeah.
So
So,
we see Schweikert of Schweikert and Copley. We see Rebecca sobbing, which is very sad. We see her being comforted by Hamlin
and Brenda.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Brenda was the. It's a long time since we've seen Brenda, but Brenda was in the first season, and I think they still kept her around, but never addressed her by name again. She was she's the receptionist at HHM, like she's the main receptionist there.
Gotcha.
In the first episode, Jimmy walks up and he says like, "Hey, what is Lord Vader in?" That sort of thing. Okay. So, by the way, I love it how they shot. I love how they shot this funeral scene because basically they approached like their courtroom rules, and they wanted to shoot a funeral like no one else has ever shot a funeral. Because again, it's like we've seen funeral scenes all sorts of times. We don't do the generic thing where Hamlin essentially read a eulogy already in the phone scene, so we need to do that again. We don't have that. We don't need that people having testimonials and all these eulogies because again, we're focusing on Jimmy, and we see our other characters like Rebecca and such. We're doing it emotionally before we're doing all the conventions of a funeral. You know?
Sure.
So it's very well shot. I love how we zero in like Chuck's program. I would get to see Chuck's face, like Jimmy would come feeling around with a really nice looking card stuck in that programming. Jimmy has this great profile shot. Again, Rebecca's revealed, and we see a troubled Hamlin.
Oh yeah,
he looks so troubled.
I know, doesn't he?
I know he does. Again, yeah.
How troubled does he look, Dragon?
One could say he's the loneliest Hamlin.
Does he look that lonely?
Yes. So right. the transition to this here. So then we have. By the way, that was our first funeral in the Albuquerque verse. By the way, we've never had a funeral in the Albuquerque verse.
Really? Huh.
Ours, I mean, can you recall any funerals?
Not that I can recall off the top of my head, no.
We've had death and sad relatives, never a funeral. Bear in mind, it's a show where we like to bury bodies and not to tell people where they're buried a lot of the time, so it wouldn't be much call for a funeral in the grand scheme of things, when you really think about it. So, so we see Howard sitting on. Here's Tiki, this sounds so mundane, but the way we know Howard Hamlin is the moment I saw this image before us here. So basically, Kim and Jimmy, it's the aftermath of the funeral, they're pulling going back home, and I saw this image, and I was like, did I see what I just thought I saw? And of course, when they get out of the car, we see this image in all its glory here, this close-up shot. It's like, oh my God, it's Howard Hamlin sitting on a common curb.
Yep. Yep.
That's the thing, because again, last season we started to take Hamlin out of his element, where again he's sneaking around like secret agent Hamlin, kind of going around and everything. Like we've never seen Hamlin in that position, and I think we're going to see Hamlin uncharted territory because Hamlin's that highfalutin. He's the guy who wants to be at the golf clubs and he wants to be at country clubs and everything. He wants to live that cushy lifestyle. I'm like, Howard Hamlin's sitting on a curb. Something must be. We're communicating something's wrong. And Tiki, I want to sway you if you ever had this doubt here. They are fully aware of like how prim and proper Howard Hamlin was. They do write that into the show. We're not just reading into that, by the way. They do actually.
I had no doubt.
They always make a point of like, especially Jennifer Bryan, their costumer. She's very aware of like how Hamlin is in his suits and everything. So. We have the big scene. This is our big final. Oh my God, folks! This is a huge scene we have here. So this already is you're in a scary headspace, like Hamlin on a curb here. So I have the big scene, the three of them in the place, surrounded by these Mesa Verde boxes. Again, the symbol of what kind of tore the wedge between Chuck and Jimmy and everything, and of course Howard and Kim. The whole Mesa Verde was strategically in this scene. We have this brilliant scene where. That falls on Jimmy. It falls on a big choice by Jimmy. Basically, the big kind of fall moment that we have in this whole episode. I've been building up kind of the theme of this season. The theme of this episode really conveys in this scene. So we see this great humanity from Howard Hamlin, wonderfully conveyed by Patrick Fabian. Again, Jimmy's very kind of...
I would say, Dragon, dare I say it, this might be Fabian's best bit of acting so far in the show's run.
So far, and I'm sure we're going to get even better. So we have... So basically, Hamlin reveals that he believes, and again, folks, we're not doing it just trust us on that here. We're not going to be able to do it just bear with us.
Yeah, we're going to kind of have to give you the cliff notes on this one.
Essentially, Hamlin reveals that he believes, again, he knows a horrible thing to say, but he believes that it wasn't an accident. Chuck, Chuck knew what he was doing with those lanterns for many years. He didn't knock it over by accident. Chuck, knocking the lantern over was an accident, and Hamlin feels it's because basically he reveals to them, they didn't know this. He reveals to them that Chuck was basically, Hamlin kind of pushed Chuck into retirement, which we saw happen. That is true.
Oh.
And of course, the thing that he reveals that really, especially Jimmy, did not know. That Jimmy was planning on, but he didn't know this went to fruition. He mentions this was after they got into an argument about the malpractice premiums going up. And now, again, Jimmy's been very kind of one note. Jimmy's been very introspective the whole episode. He's been very just man a few words. He said all the stuff that he needed to say at the funeral. He's like saying, "Oh, thank you for your condolences," all that stuff. And now Jimmy's like, I love how distracted he is by this information as Hamlin's going through like the guilt and all the basically the sob story to what Jimmy's feeling right now. He's, again, Hamlin's giving this Emmy-winning performance here, and Jimmy's like saying, what premiums were these again? And Jimmy makes the realization, he puts two and two together, a mind-blowing 2 and 2 here, that he, in part, killed Chuck.
Yeah, I love how you can just see the wheels turning in Jimmy's head as this is going down.
And Tiki, this is the moment. This is my favorite. The Mike stuff I enjoyed, and I was like, basically, after the Mike stuff, and I had this with Bates Motel a lot of the time, and I kind of have it with Better Call Saul occasionally too, where you're so wrapped up in, you're keeping track of, you check the time on it to realize, like, oh my god, this episode, I want more of this episode, but coming to an end. What's going to happen?
You know, the funny thing about that, Dragon, is the copy, and I wasn't even pirating this episode. I was watching it on the AMC website, and for some reason, the AMC website had this, and then that stupid other show that came after this, like, packaged as one video. So I had a timestamp. I had a timestamp of like an hour and 40 minutes. Yeah. And so I was thinking, like, well, I don't think this is a double episode, but could it be a double episode?
God. Anyway, God. Okay, so basically after the Mike stuff, I was starting to realize that we were running out of time with the episode. Like, oh my God, it's not even over yet. So then this is the huge moment, probably the best moment of the whole episode right here for me. So we have Jimmy's huge moment of change that will define the season and basically say what we're doing with this season. Yep. So Jimmy has an opportunity after learning that.
It goes back to our whole thesis statement for the whole show, is that it's something that's entirely mundane. It's just a reaction to something, but it's like a light switch.
Jimmy, again, after learning that he is in some part culpable, because again, he did put this into motion, and Jimmy did this out of spite for Chuck, but he didn't know he was going to, again, so Jimmy didn't intend to kill his brother, obviously, but he did, in fact, want to spite his brother, and in doing so, he, in part, is greatly responsible for all this. So Jimmy basically has the opportunity to do the right thing. At the very least, he could ease Howard's guilt by saying, "Oh, it's not your fault." Like, at the very least, he could do that. So Tiki, tell me you know the line. What does he say to Howard Hamlin, who is just emotionally raw and destroyed and so guilty, and so that he blames himself. He couldn't be more remorseful. Like, oh God, I've done something horrible. What does Jimmy say to a crushed, broken, sad? One could say a sad Hamlin.
Well, Howard, that's your cross.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you now. Say the line.
Well, Howard, that's your cross to bear.
Yeah.
All right, well, the timing messed up on that. Sorry, I accidentally unplugged my microphone, but...
So that's the fall moment. So that's the moment. Basically, this whole season, this whole episode, this whole thing, it's akin to, again, they got the right director for it. It feels like the moment from Fall where you're just utterly shocked and disgusted by Jimmy McGill becoming Saul Goodman for a moment there. It's like, there was I had such a gasp moment when I heard that. Like, oh my God, I knew they were going to go here, but
of course, Howard is just in tears at this. You know what I mean? He's just like, he's absolutely just broken about this.
I mean, you see it on I love what we do here. I'm sorry, I'm going to mile in here because this is I'm reliving it. Again, it's like a deafening moment that's defining the season right before our eyes. We cut to Kim's reaction, and we see Kim is she's a little shocked. Like, she's not judgmental. She's just kind of shocked. Like, wait, I didn't expect them to go there. I was going to go with the condolence party line here. So, like, the whole "it's not your fault" line. And then we see Howard and what Fabian does here. he's hurt, but he's surprised, and basically he was expecting to hear it in part two. He was hoping to hear something. He didn't know what. He was hoping to hear like something comforting or something, just basically a reaction from Jimmy, but he didn't expect to hear like kind of the. You see how like his head kind of tilts up, and you see like the tears in his eyes and everything. And he's just like he's so like the puffiness around the eyes and everything. You see him kind of surprised and like. I just love to capture that surprise and that sadness. And then Jimmy, he gets up as they're all shell shocked. Jimmy gets up, and this is basically the moment from Breaking Bad season 5.
Oh, this is like it's like a greatest hits version of that. Absolutely,
they do the moment from season 5 where Walt basically says like, "I'm not going to get any sleep over there."
Berries in the best way possible, Dragon.
Yes. Berries being the operative word in the whole, well, anyway, the whole Brock of it all, but yeah. Bear in mind, I know we're not citing that. We're citing the whole, the dirt bike thing. We're citing the whole, the not the train robbery, the whole freight train, right? Freight. It's dead freight. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Jimmy, he goes up to feed the fish. Again, he really cares about that fish, Tiki.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna go back and see if that fish is in Saul Goodman's office, because if it isn't, I think that fish is gonna when that dies. I think that's the death of Jim McGill. So we have this happy-go-lucky Jimmy just brush everything off, and it's just, oh, look at her go. Coffee, anybody? And then he starts whistling like Walter White in season 5. He's whistling, and then Kim would end the episode on Kim unsure of how to react, and that yes. The perfect note to hit.
Oh yeah.
So, Odenkirk, by the way, Odenkirk weighed in on this scene. Odenkirk said he played this scene, the way he kind of played the episode, but he kind of revealed the introspective thing he was thinking of here, mainly for this scene, is that Jimmy, at what point, that's for the audience to judge, but at a certain point in the episode, Odenkirk basically played Jimmy as in he's gotten over Chuck. Basically, he's already grieved Chuck in his own way, and he's kind of moved past Chuck, but he has to play the mourner for a lot of the episode. So I would imagine, my summation is at the funeral onwards where he's moved past Chuck. And that's the thing, like, he's thinking like Saul Goodman at this point. That's the thing, like when he lost Chuck, like Jimmy's mindset's gonna be very fascinating to gauge like where Jimmy's at in the grand scheme of things here. But he's moved past like feeling sorry for Chuck. He's just moved past him, and everyone thinks like they're on eggshells walking around. Like, how's he gonna react to this? And he's just like, that's fine. Coffee, anyone? That's where he's at right now. Okay, so we got a promo. A few images from a promo.
Yeah, Dragon, I actually have a quick thing of speculation to kind of dovetail us into the speculation before the promo that relates to that scene.
Okay, go on.
I think that scene in particular is going to be the happiest that Jimmy ever is for the rest of his life.
Wow, really?
Like, that is going to be the high point for him. It's literally all going to be downhill from here.
So you mean it's the last happy moment?
Yes.
I'll say I could imagine being the last happy Jimmy McGill moment, but I think if we see him happy throughout the series, it'll be Saul Goodman being happy, or at least
fair enough.
Transitional Saul be. I
definitely think it's the last happy Jimmy McGill moment at the very least.
Go with you there, maybe. All right, so promo. Very few quick shots here, so we don't have to get bogged down in the promo and like the whole season long. Basically, the next episode is this. Jimmy's starting to do the job interviews. At least this is what the promo is showing us. Whether or not all of this is going to be in the episode, I'm making fingers crossed. Jimmy's going job hunting with the interviews and such. The big thing that's been on the trailers. The whole lawyers are like you know why God made snakes before lawyers. You practice that whole thing. Arturo looks like he's going to be trying to be the new boss. He's giving the orders. He's basically doing a deal with Fring's guys. With Victor and Tyrus. And he's giving the orders. So, again, I think, he's kind of circumventing Nacho there, which could be very interesting. The last big thing, what we see in the promo, is it looks like we're led to believe we're doing the big Mike getting the call from Jimmy next episode. That's what it looks like.
Hopefully. Again, that's the main thing that I hope is actually in next episode.
To be fair, it could be a really weird misdirect in the editing, because Jimmy's on the call saying, "Hey, I got a job you're gonna like," and then of course we cross cut with Mike in a different scene. So I don't know if it's supposed to be they're implying that, hey, Jimmy and Mike. Okay, speculation. You want me to lay mine out first? You want to anything?
I have okay. Are we gonna get straight into the Gene stuff? Like who's
Yeah,
in the cab?
yeah. Let's start with the Gene. The Gene thing's the one I really want to speculate on here.
My theory is that it's Kim's husband.
Really?
Because I've already put two and two together on Kim's from Nebraska. Jimmy's in Nebraska. I think the reason Jimmy's in Nebraska is because of Kim. And I think Kim's husband recognizes Saul, maybe recognizes Saul as Jimmy, and doesn't know how to process it. And that's why he's not going at the light.
Huh.
That's my theory. Probably pretty weak. I haven't had anyone else online have that same theory, so
I gotta tell you, so far I don't buy that one, but that's just me. So
that's
see
fine.
how that goes.
That's fine.
Here's my theory. Okay, so again with the tracksuit Jimmy McGill that we've been seeing in all the marketing stuff. That so far, I don't think we're gonna get that next episode, but down the line, this season we're gonna get that. I think this season, this is where I'm circling around to the Gene thing. I haven't forgotten it. Here's what I think's going on. I think we're going to see events unfold this season that's going to link up to the Gene thing we opened on this season. I think Jimmy becomes a bookie. I think specifically Jimmy becomes a bookie this season when he has the tracksuit on. And he runs a scam with, most likely, I'm saying it could be anyone. I'm saying I presume Lalo, if we want to make it really, if we want to go full circle and really connect with the Gene stuff. It's Lalo, the guy who's looking for Saul Goodman, at least a guy who has been reported to be looking for Saul Goodman. Lalo is looking for sign that, a deal went down with Jimmy's putting off blame to Ignacio, aka Nacho, most likely. I mean, Nacho even recaps his name this season. I think very, very intentionally. Tiki Nacho introduces himself as Ignacio, which of course is going to be proper, I believe, proper Spanish for Nacho.
Sure.
Anyway, so the point is, Jimmy, of course, the famous first episode of Better Call Saul when we first, in Breaking Bad, he was in the desert. He was on his knees, and he's saying, "It was
Ignacio."
Are you guys with Lalo? And of course, Lalo is a character we've been teased that we're going to get this season. My theory is that's Stefan Kappa-Sig.
It's got to be, right?
I would hope so. I'd be so thrilled if that was him because it's a big character. Lalo's a huge character. Anyway, so my theory, my big theory for this whole season, for possibly the whole Gene of it all, is that Jimmy becomes a bookie. He runs this scam with Lalo. He basically pulls a scam on Lalo. Lalo places a bet, and Jimmy basically it's a sporting bet. It's a baseball. It's over a baseball game, over the Albuquerque Isotopes baseball game. He runs a scam that could include Nacho, that even could include Price because Price is the big baseball guy. Entirely possible. And what's going to happen, so they might be involved, most likely at the very least Nacho. Jimmy's going to try to run a scam on Lalo here. He's probably going to seemingly get away with it this season. And Don Harvey, whoever this actor is, Don Harvey, I presume it's going to be, I think, now I'm not saying that he's Lalo, but I'm saying that guy, again, he could be Lalo. I don't know. The point is that guy is working for this guy. At the point, I think Don Harvey, the cab driver, whoever that guy is, that cab driver, is recognizes him from that neighborhood, from that group. I think if we see that cab driver in this season, I think absolutely, it's going to tie into the Lalo stuff. It's going to tie into like he ran a scam involving that baseball game because that guy's a fan of that baseball game. And I think he's either the guy that Jimmy scammed or maybe he is Lalo, maybe he's not. It's probably sorry. Let me rephrase. He's not Lalo. Maybe Lalo's not involved in this, but at the very least, I think that this guy is going to be the guy that Gene scammed, and he's been looking for him, possibly.
Could be.
The point is, the bare minimum, I think we're going to link up with Gene stuff through the baseball game, and it's going to be a scam as a bookie. Bookie, scam, Albuquerque Isotopes, Gene. That's my big theory.
Cool.
Okay, let's see. Very minimal.
I have a theory with Mike.
Sure, what do you got?
Basically my theory is that Kaylee. Okay, so I don't know if we've gone over this.
Yeah, no, but you teased me with this. What the heck's this whole Kaylee theory? Or what do you got?
Okay, so at the beginning of Breaking Bad, correct me if I'm wrong, I remember there was some sort of weird distance between Mike and Stacy.
You're absolutely correct. There was.
Okay, so my theory is that now that Mike's spending more time with Kaylee, he's basically going to be seeing her on a daily basis. And now that he's also kind of putting his foot in hot water with the Madrigal stuff, Dragon, something bad's got to happen to Kaylee. and it's going to fall on Mike. And that's where the fallout's going to happen with Stacy.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I just wanted to, let me be on the money here. Here's exactly what we saw in Breaking Bad with that. Okay. So, in the beginning of Better Call Saul, Mike had a lot of distance with her over the stuff with Mike's son, because there was a lot of different. There was basically she drove by, and they gave kind of a glare to each other. However, in Breaking Bad, when we first saw them, Mike wasn't exactly hanging out with Stacy, and I don't even know, she may or may not have waved to him. But the point is, again, we had implied distance. We don't know how close they are, because we only had that one scene with her. She was from a distance, and she waved. Also, she had blonde hair, by the way, which they may or may not have to address. But the point is, she was. He wasn't really as close with her as he once was. So you might be on the sign there, but I wouldn't put a whole lot. Well, there may or may not be a huge delay. They could always circumvent it if they really wanted to, but you might be right.
Okay.
I don't know if there's going to be like a whole I'm fascinated to see if you're going to be right on that. I really am. So we'll see. But I don't expect it, but we'll see.
And that's basically all the spec I've got.
Okay, well, with me, my piecing together what the Mike deal with the Mike stuff was, where the Mike stuff's going with this episode. Very simply, I think either Mike will initiate. Everyone's saying there. Basically, I think Mike may have made a miscalculation. Basically, Mike might bother Gus here. Basically, everyone's saying. Basically, we know in Breaking Bad season 5 that we have these lapses in security that allow for missing methylamine. So that's either an aspect of a guy who knows the security systems in and out and intentionally made flaws in the security system, or it's someone who knows it so they can basically do that in a way that takes advantage of that. So it's either those flaws are there for a purpose, or they are there. Like they're either there by design or they're there accidentally. So that's the question. So I wonder. Well, it's there for a purpose. It's either someone knows what they're doing, or the flaws are there in the first place. I wonder if Gus has those flaws there, so people can sneak methylamine out to do drug business on the side. That's my wondering. So I wonder if Mike has infringed upon that for Fring here, and maybe gotten himself in a little bit of hot water here. And that's the thing. He walks in magically. He shouts at all these lapses. Insecurities, like calling out Lydia's name. So Mike may have made a major miscalculation that could irritate Gus, and that basically will motivate Gus and Mike to. Gus might be a little peeved at Mike there, and the whole you've earned Gus Fring's respect. I'd keep that if I were you. Like Lydia warning Mike, like, hey, don't rock the boat on this. Don't risk your role here, and that's going to lead to Mike and Gus becoming friends. It's like they start butting heads and they become friends.
I can see that.
Let's see. I think that's one thing that Odenkirk teased. One thing they teased this, and this is really cool. Kim is going to become like the last vestige of a moral compass that Jimmy has, which means the importance that Jimmy had placed on Chuck and Kim will all go to Kim, which could be dangerous with the relationship. As he's putting a lot of overemphasis on whatever Kim thinks, that's his new barometer to measure his he measured himself against Chuck. Now he has to measure himself against what Kim thinks of him, and if he's acting erratically and acting like Saul Goodman, that could lead to disaster. And also, something they floated around is that any antagonist that Jimmy comes up against, he will infer that person is the new Chuck in the world.
Right.
Which could be dangerous. So, a lot of unexpected choices been teased. So that's really all the spec that I got.
Okay. Do we have some phone calls to make?
Yes, and we got to get on this before they do away with this, so they change it for events that will unfold in the season. We're going to call our lawyer. We're going to call our lawyer, our soon-to-be lawyer. We're going to call Jimmy McGill. So, folks, live here, 505.
Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry.
Operators are standing by.
Okay, 505.
842.
842.
5662.
5662. Okay, let's do it.
All right, folks, get ready.
Commercial for one of our many Emmy-nominated clients. If you're calling this number, that means you are Emmy material. Whether you're a voter or just a nominee, at Saul Goodman Productions, everyone's a winner. So at the tone, leave your name and the number. And remember, you can't take home an Emmy without M-E. That's me, Saul Goodman. This message is brought to you by Better Call Saul, FYC.
Oh dear, so much
hilariously, that's them making fun of the lack of Emmy for Better Call Saul, and I thought it was brilliant.
All right.
If only they could do that for Bates Motel, but Better Call Saul's still on, so they can do it with that. So anyway, I guess final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts. This was definitely I honestly think this might be the best season premiere we've gotten so far, Dragon. I think it was firing on all cylinders. The Gene stuff was really, really on point. I mean, it was like just super suspenseful the whole way through. I feel like we kind of got an even balance of storyline between Kim, Mike, and Gus. The Gus stuff was really more setup than anything else, kind of more exposition, but we kind of needed it. Dragon, I gotta say, after talking through the episode with you, I'm kind of more on board with the Mike stuff than I was on my first watch. Like I was more on board with it after my rewatch, and now I'm even more on board with it than I was. So I'm definitely on board with the Mike stuff. And of course, I think structurally this episode is just like chock to the brim with symbolism and just motif, and it makes me really excited, Dragon. Like this season is young, man. We got 9 more of these things left, and if they can continue the quality, then we've got a fun ride ahead of us, a fun and probably brutal emotionally ride ahead of us, and I can't wait.
Oh yeah. Okay, my final thoughts are very simply, this episode was a slow burn in the best way, in the best of ways you could have a slow burn that sticks the landing and shapes the season. It sets the stage very well. Again, like the Mike stuff is delightful, and again, it's respecting the audience's intelligence, and I really love that in the storytelling. And of course, we have our huge moral choice that feels like the best elements of season 3 that's going to shape the season. So I was very delighted with this episode. It was very well directed. And yeah, I'm blown away by it. I'm inclined to agree with you, Tiki. I think it is. I mean, thinking about it, I think it is probably, out of all the season starters, I think it's probably the strongest of the season openers that we've, the premieres that we've gotten. Honestly, I mean, don't get me wrong, they've all been great. Don't be wrong. I'm just saying this one feels like a complete whole, and like one that's kind of a game changer for the season. So I think it accomplishes a lot, and there's not really. I mean, the closest is season 2, and season 2 was great too. The opening season 2 was great, but this one is more of a, I don't know, this one's more monumental, I guess. Okay, so if that's everything, I guess so. Take us out then.
Take us out.
Remember, kids, when you get that phone call, make it count. Better Call Saul. Saul Goodman & Associates is the one-stop shop for all your legal needs.
And with that, we are adjourned.
We could totally be lawyers.
Except we need a better gavel.